Today, Nikon announced two Nikkor Z-mount lenses, the first one being the highly anticipated 85 1.2 S lens, and the second being the 26mm f2.8 lens. Let's talk about the 85 1.2 first. Why should photographers, specifically Nikon users, care about this 85 1.2 lens? Before 2019, when Nikon released the NOCT 58mm f.95 lens, the fastest Nikkor lenses were old school manual focusing lenses. All right, these were the NOCT 58 1.2, 55 1.2, and the 50mm 1.2. Notice how I didn't say the 85 1.2. The reason being is that the F-mount design was not large enough to be able to fit a rear end element into that F-mount body. Looking at the Canon 85 EF 1.2 lens, you can see that the contact pins that establishes communication between the lens and the body is literally on the bottom portion of the glass because that rear end element is just so big. I've read through tons of comments and forums about why Nikon never released an 85 1.2. It literally boils down to that although Nikon could have technically come out with an 85 1.2, it would have been too expensive, too heavy, and the difference between like the bokeh of the 1.2 and the 1.4 85 would have been really subtle. Quote a user named Grevature from dpreview.com, the most significant effect of that 1/3 extra stop is for marketing and bragging rights. This is why Nikon's Z-mount system is so incredible. Not only is the Z-mount 17% larger than the Nikon F-mount, it also sits atop the charts in comparison to other camera companies. Not just because it has a larger mount diameter and shorter flange difference, the angle of incidence is greater too. To quote Nassim Mansurov from Photography Life, the throat diameter combined with flange distance determines the maximum possible angle of incidence of the marginal rays from the lens, which is important in designing lenses. Generally, the larger the angle of incidence, the easier it is to make high performance lenses. This means that it is possible for Nikon to take their lenses to that next level, and they have been since the Z-mount system came out. In 2019, they came out with that 58mm f.95 NOCT lens. They came out with the 50mm 1.2 lens, and now we've got this 85mm 1.2 lens. But it's not just the 1.2 lenses. I had a chance to rent the 24mm 1.8, the 50mm 1.8, and the 85mm 1.8, all S-line lenses, which basically means that this is the top tier of Nikon's lens quality as far as the way the motors work inside the lenses and their nano crystal coat in conjunction with their Arneo coat, which helps to reduce ghosting and flares in the lens. Now, throat diameter, flange distance, angles of incidence aren't terms that most consumers are familiar with when they're going to buy a new camera. They're mainly looking at megapixels, video quality, and price. As photographers, when we're shopping for lenses, what's the main spec that we're looking at? Aperture, right? When I bought my Nikon 85 1.4 lens, I didn't buy it just because I felt like it was better than the 1.8 because the spec sheet says it is. I went through the forums, I went through the threads of people showing the 1.8 photo and the 1.4 and how you can't really tell the difference. I've read the articles about how you might be wasting money on the 1.4, yada yada, but I bought it knowing that it would perform better in low light situations at 1.4. Also the front glass design of this lens being much larger than the 1.8. Also the premium glass coatings inside the barrel of the lens, the way that the glass elements are arranged. There's so many different things that go on in the design of these lenses, and that's why I'm so excited about the 85 1.2 taking full advantage of the Nikon Z-mount system, being able to build lenses with bigger rear glass elements, to be able to arrange the glass elements inside the barrel at a much better way to reduce ghosting and flaring. I am so excited for this 85 1.2 lens. You might say I would rather have the lens than the Nikon Z9. I don't know, but we know that lenses, man, they make a huge difference with photography. And speaking of a huge difference, all right, the price of this lens is $27 $499 brand new, and it will be available late in March. Now let's talk about the 26mm f2.8 lens. My first question is this: why do we need this, especially if we already have a 28mm f2.8 lens? Well, the quick answer is this: you don't need this lens, but you want this lens. And I've got two reasons as to why you might want this lens. This is a true pancake lens with a total length of less than 1 inch, about an inch shorter than the 28mm f2.8 lens. It also has a weight of 4.5 ounces, which is about the equivalent of a deck of cards, whereas the 28mm is about the weight of a baseball. This is very important for those photographers who want a very minimal presence, especially for those who do street photography. For me, having a big lens in front of someone's face can be very intimidating, but something like this pancake lens is perfect. It's a match made in heaven. And I would love to have this on a Nikon Z50 or Z30. The second reason you're gonna want this lens is because of the wide angle. All right, now the difference between the 26mm and the 28mm might seem a little different, but there's actually a 4-degree difference. The viewing angle of the 26mm on the DX camera body is about 57 degrees, whereas on a DX camera body, the 28mm is 53 degrees. On a DX body, the 26mm is gonna give you about a 39mm look, whereas the 28mm on a DX camera is gonna give you somewhere in the ballpark of 42mm. Also, if you look at the lineup of Nikkor Z-mount lenses, the next stop below that 28mm is the 24mm 1.4. And I don't know if you have $1,000 to spend on a lens that wide if you want an aperture of 2.8 or lower. Otherwise, just stick with the kit lens, right? The 16 to 50mm at 3.5. This 26mm at 2.8, I think, fills a little void, especially for content creators and vloggers and streamers. Like right now, I'm using my 24mm 1.4 f-mount lens, a very expensive lens, okay? I love it shooting weddings and things like that. But for a stream camera, getting something like this 26mm, using it for vlogging, for street photography, is definitely the perfect pair for that Z30 or the Z50. You can pick up this lens for $499 and it will be available early March. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video, that greatly helps. If you want to take your support to the next level, then consider becoming a member to our channel. We just got memberships unlocked and I've got 5 tiers that you can choose from. It's going to unlock sub badges, emotes. It's going to give you access to the member only content and videos and posts and things like that. That would be so awesome. Also, I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you're looking for a photography community to get involved with, it's so much fun chatting with everyone, talking about tech gear, even just playing games together. We do raw photo editing challenges. We do photo critiques and review. We do a lot of things with the Light Den Academy, and I invite you to get involved. I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers.